She flew home from London with a runner-up trophy and a scar that took her almost 370 days to close, and she closed it by giving her rival 0 games. Before this video goes any further, you need to know this isn't a normal comeback story. This is a story about a name that was legally, officially, right there on a draw sheet, the one name a young athlete had spent an entire year hoping and dreading she'd see again. And by the time this video is over, you'll understand why the way she closed this chapter wasn't just a win. It was a message she'd been carrying on her own skin for a year without anyone knowing it. Stick around, because the final twist connects to a photograph that was taken 3 years before any of this happened, and it changes everything you're about to watch. If this is your first time here, subscribe now, because we tell the stories inside the scoreline that nobody else digs deep enough to find. The wild card nobody saw coming. To understand what happened on a grass court in London in the summer of 2026, you first have to go back to Florida, to March of 2025. A 19-year-old named Alex Iga had just arrived at the Miami Open as a wild card, ranked outside the world's top 130. Nobody handed her a spot in this tournament because of her ranking. She was given a wild card, the tennis equivalent of a backstage pass, and she was expected to lose early and go home. Instead, she beat a former French Open champion. Then she beat a reigning Australian Open champion. And then, in the quarterfinals, she walked onto the court against Iga Swiatek, a 5-time Grand Slam winner and the world's second-ranked player. Iga won 6-2, 7-5. When the microphone reached her afterward, she could barely get her words out. She said she was in complete disbelief, that she felt like she was floating. If you go back and watch that clip today, there is nothing rehearsed about it. This was a teenager who had genuinely not processed what had just happened to her own career in real time. Here's why that Miami win mattered beyond one big scalp in Florida. The Philippines had never had a player break into the upper levels of the WTA Tour. Not once in the modern history of the sport. Iga wasn't just winning a match. She was proving a pathway existed where nobody had ever proven one before. But to really understand the size of that Swiatek win, you need one more piece of the puzzle. A photograph from 2 years earlier that most casual fans have never seen. The photograph. In June 2023, a teenage Iga graduated from the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain, where she trained since she was 13 years old. Every year, the academy invites a special guest athlete to speak at the ceremony. That year, the guest was Iga Swiatek, fresh off winning the French Open. Swiatek sat down next to Iga for the photos. Years later, recalling that day, Iga said she remembered being thrilled just to be in the picture beside her. Now hold on to that image, because less than 2 years after that photo was taken, those two players were standing across the net from each other in a Grand Slam quarterfinal, and the teenager from the photo was the one holding the match point. That's the fairy tale chapter of this story. But every fairy tale has the part where it all falls apart. For Iga, that part arrived just 3 months later, on the grass of Eastbourne. The match that wouldn't let go. By June 2025, Iga had qualified into the Lexus Eastbourne Open, meaning she had to win just to get into the main draw. She kept winning anyway, beating one seeded player after another, until, improbably, she was standing in her first WTA singles final. Waiting across the net, an Australian teenager by the name of Maya Joint. Iga took the first set to a tight finish before dropping it, then dominated the second set to level the match. Everything pointed to her closing this out. In the deciding set, she reached match point. Then another, then another, then a fourth, for separate championship points. For separate chances to become the first Filipino tennis player, male or female, to win a professional tour title in the Open era. Joint saved every single one of them. The set was forced into a tiebreak that stretched all the way to 12-10, and after 2 hours and 26 minutes on court, it was Joint who dropped to the grass in celebration, not Iga. Final score: 6-4, 1-6, 7-6, 10. No trophy. Just a runner-up medal and a memory she has since admitted she couldn't bring herself to rewatch for months. Think about what a defeat like that actually does to a young athlete. Not the scoreline, the specific memory of standing 4 points from history and watching all 4 slip away in someone else's favor. That kind of loss doesn't stay in the past. It follows you into the next tournament and the one after that and every tight final set for as long as you keep playing the sport. For nearly a year, that's exactly where this story sat. Frozen. Alex Ila, the giant killer who beat Swiatek in Miami. Forever also the player who blew 4 championship points against Maya Joint. Building back. Here's the part almost nobody talks about, and it's the part that makes the ending land so much harder. Ila didn't fold after Eastbourne. She kept building. Over the following year, her ranking climbed steadily, eventually making her the highest-ranked Filipino player in WTA history. But it wasn't a straight, uninterrupted rise, and that matters because it means what happened next wasn't some invincible hot streak. It was a human, uneven climb. In June 2026, right before Wimbledon, Ila won the Birmingham Open, her first grass court title, and in the process, her first ever win over a Czech opponent after 14 previous defeats to players from that country. She followed it up at Queen's Club in London, extending her winning streak on grass to 6 matches. Then that streak ended. In the round of 16 at Queen's Club, Ila ran into her close friend and doubles partner, Iga Swiatek, and lost in straight sets. The same player who had already beaten her once that season at the French Open. So going into Wimbledon, this wasn't a player riding some flawless, unbeaten wave. She was a player who had just been knocked down again, dusting herself off for the 3rd Grand Slam of her career with a seeding to her name for the very first time. She opened Wimbledon with a straight sets win over Mexico's Renata Zarazua. Routine. Professional. And then the second round draw was released. The draw nobody could have scripted. There it was, printed for the entire tennis world to see. Maya Joint. Not a stand-in for the pain of Eastbourne. The exact same player. Fresh off her own headline-making win, Joint had just eliminated 7-time Grand Slam champion Serena Williams in the first round. Think about the position this put Ila in. The one player with a winning record against her. The one match that had haunted her for almost a full year. And now it was happening not on some quiet outer court at a smaller event, but at Wimbledon in front of the entire sport. Here's what almost nobody says honestly about revenge matches in tennis. They usually go wrong. The pressure of facing the person who broke your heart tends to tighten the shoulders, not loosen them. It's supposed to make your hands shake at the biggest moments, not steady them. Players get one shot at redemption and more often than not, they choke under the weight of wanting it too badly. So which one was this going to be? Set 1, the nightmare repeats. For a set, it looked exactly like the pattern everyone feared. Joint came out sharp, breaking Ila's serve early and backing it up with a hold to move ahead 2-0. Ila admitted afterward that Joint came out playing with real fire, and that she knew immediately this was going to be a fight. The first set slipped away 6-3 to Joint. If you were watching live, this is the exact moment you'd have started bracing for a repeat of Eastbourne. Same opponent, same slow start, same sinking feeling. Set 2, the turn. And then, something shifts. Ila builds a lead in the second set 3-1, before Joint claws one game back to make it 3-2. Precisely the kind of moment where a player carrying an old wound starts to unravel. Instead, Ila wins 3 straight games to close out the set, 6-2, forcing a decider. 1 set apiece. Everything on the line. And this is where the match stops being just tennis and starts being something closer to a reckoning. Set 3-0. Ila wins the first game of the decider. Then, in the third game, with Joint serving and trying to fight back into the set, the match goes to 5 deuces. 5 separate chances for Joint to hold her serve and stay competitive. 5 times it slips away. 2 shots into the net, 1 sailing wide, and Ila has a 3-0 lead in the deciding set. From there, it is not close. Ila does not just win the set. She does not lose another game. 6-0. Final score, 3-6, 6-2, 6-0 in just under 2 hours, sending her into the 3rd round of a Grand Slam for the first time in her career, and making her the first Filipina in the Open era to reach that stage at any major. 6-0. Against the one player who had already denied her the biggest moment of her career. What she was actually wearing. Here's a detail that connects everything, and it's real. Not a storyteller's embellishment. That morning, before she'd even stepped onto the grass, Ila had posted a photo of her visor. Stitched into the strap, in Tagalog, Kapag Lumago, Hindi na hihinto. Once it grows, it cannot be stopped. She wore those words onto the court before she knew how the day would end. Afterward, in her press conference, she explained that carrying pieces of her culture with her on court is deeply personal, that where she comes from is a huge part of who she is and who she wants to become. She also said of that Eastbourne loss that it hit her hard enough that she genuinely could not watch the highlights back for months, and that a year on, she'd finally reached the point where she could look back at it and smile. Read that timeline again. The visor was stitched before the result. The words became true because of what she did with them, not the other way around. Why this matters more than the scoreline. Step back and look at what this win actually represents. This wasn't just Iga erasing one bad memory. It was her breaking new ground for an entire country with no real history of producing tour-level tennis talent. A first Wimbledon main draw win the year before, a first-ever seeding at a Grand Slam, and now a statement win over the only player on tour with a winning record against her.